You're watching Let the Quran Speak. We turn now to the Bangladesh factory tragedy. Hundreds of workers were killed in a garment factory collapse in Bangladesh a few weeks ago. The factory supplied clothing to companies in North America, including Loblaw here in Canada. Who is to blame for the tragedy? Do we bear some responsibility? And what rights do workers have? How do we ensure they're not exploited? With me is Brother Shabir. Brother Shabir, I'm sure you've read the reports about the situation in Bangladesh. What are your thoughts on the story?
It's a very unfortunate situation, and it shows how slow we are as the human race to catch on to the problems that we should do away with.
And the injustices.
Yes. In 2005, in the same area, there was a building collapse which killed some 85 people. Last year, there was a factory that burnt, and some 112 persons died in that unfortunate incident. And now here again we have another factory collapsing, and some 400 and some people, workers, have been killed.
So it's not just that we're slow, it's that we're negligent. We just don't care.
Yes, you know, the news is like this, that the news about what's happening next door, you know, there's a robbery next door, there is a murder down the street. This catches our attention, and we want to do something about it because it's here and now. But something that's far away, that is remote, that is in another country that does not have much political power or influence in the world, it hardly catches our attention. It may be a blip on our news screen for the moment, and then it's gone, and we forget about it. We go back to our daily routines of enjoying life and wearing the clothing and looking good in the clothing that has been produced in the sweatshops in various parts of the world.
So do we bear some responsibility then? I mean, we can think about the companies who are exploiting the cheap labor and profiting from that. But what about us who buy the clothes and wear them?
Yeah, I don't want to sound sensationalist. I can only say that there are varying levels of responsibility. There is direct and indirect responsibility. So our responsibility in this regard can only be very indirect, but to whatever small degree of responsibility, whatever small degree of responsibility we have, we need to own up to it and see what we need to do about it. Should we feel happy wearing clothing that is produced, let's say, by child labor in some part of the world, whether it be China or Cambodia or Thailand or wherever? Should I be happy wearing the clothing that is sold for a good price here, knowing that it is produced by workers working in very appalling conditions, such as in buildings that may collapse on their heads?
You're being paid very low wages as well.
Exactly. And of course, the people who benefit most from this are not the consumers, but the producers, and the not so much the producers, but because the actual workers are the real producers.
Themselves.
Yes, the companies that hire these workers and trade on their sweat, and they bankroll large sums as a result of this sort of activity.
So in Islam, is there any concept of a worker having certain rights and being needing to be compensated, for example, needing to have proper wages, needing to have good work conditions, that sort of thing?
Definitely. Much of what we know about labor laws and employment standards have evolved in recent times in most parts of the developed world. But it is interesting to see that many of the principles and teachings of Islam actually can give rise to this very production of employment standards and principles of equity and fairness and justice towards the working class. We know that the Prophet, peace be upon him, is reported to have said that a person who will be who will be very harshly treated on the Day of Judgment will be the person who employed someone and benefited from his labor, but did not actually give him his pay. Another tradition, which is in one of the books of lesser authenticity, that of Ibn Majah, reports that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that you must pay a worker before his sweat dries. So that shows that there is a great degree of concern for people of the working class. It is also noted that the Prophet, peace be upon him, showed great affection towards people who worked with their hands. It is reported in our traditions that the Prophet David, who is known to be King David in the Bible, actually worked with his hands. So the menial tasks are not to be looked down upon. If you have somebody under you, then you are to make sure that they are fed as you are fed, they are clothed as you are clothed, that they have good conditions. It cannot be that you are benefiting and getting rich while that you are doing so on the backs of poor and marginalized people.
And in Islam, I guess, regardless of whether you're poor or rich, you're still equal in the sight of God. So there's still this idea of human equality.
Yes, egalitarianism is something that is well entrenched in the Islamic teachings. The virtue of charity, too, can be brought into play here. The Quran is interesting in laying out the rights and responsibilities of various individuals, like, for example, in a marriage, and then it adds, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, and do not forget the virtue between you. In other words, you can have stipulations. These are the legal requirements. You have to provide this and this for your employee. But we know that a good employer would make life easy for his or her employees by providing amenities which are not required by law. So that is called fadl, that's virtue, that's over and above, it is excess. And the Quran is saying, beyond all legalities, don't forget to do good to your fellow human being in these circumstances. When we see that a building is cracking and there is a danger that it might collapse, and the employers do nothing about it, they just allow things to go by, they do not ensure the safety of their employees. All of this is very contrary to the Islamic spirit and even to its stipulation and regulations.
All right, nicely put. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time, Brother Shabir.
Welcome.
We'll take a break. When we return, we will answer questions we've received from you, our viewers.